Welcome all to CN Canada's Extraordinary Life. This is Karandeep. Today we have a very honorable guest with us. She is a community advocate. She is a social worker. She has been a politician and she stood for elections. She has done many good activities across Malton for the development. Her name is Dianne Douglas. Hi Dianne, welcome to our show. Welcome to Extraordinary Lives. And thank you so much for being with us. We are highly obliged that you are here.
Oh, it's my pleasure and my honor.
Thank you. And Dianne, before we start, can you share a bit about where you originally belong to?
Sure. Actually, I'm born and raised here. I go back 4 generations on one side of my family and on the other 5 generations in Canada. And I was born in Sarnia, Ontario, which is just an hour the other side of London, Ontario. It's a border city right across from Port Huron, Michigan. So I know what it's like to live in the shadow of the United States, literally. Mm-hmm. And it's right at the base of Lake Huron. Yeah, so I grew up there.
And what was your educational journey like? How did it shape your career and community work in Canada?
Well, I really struggled. I think it's even worse today for the kids because there's so much pressure to know what you want to be when you grow up. And I changed my mind a lot. I thought I wanted to go into medicine, and then I thought I wanted to be a security guard in a prison. I don't recall why, but I did think that was a good move at one point. And then I decided to take social work at the University of Windsor, and it just didn't feel like the best fit. So I've always carried what I learned with me, but I did switch my degree to English, and I have my honors BA in English language and literature, and I found it served me well. My first real job out of university was as a sales representative, and you had to speak properly. So having good language skills was one of the reasons I was hired, and I haven't stopped talking.
That's great. You see, family plays a very important role in your life, and especially the people like you who are socially very active. You have been into politics and full-time politics, right? Mm-hmm. And could you please tell me how far was your spouse, your family was supportive to you during the struggle times?
Yeah, my husband Colin has always been extremely supportive. He has done everything he could to help me with organizational paperwork things, that type of thing. Both my parents have passed now, but they were extremely supportive of me running for office. And I've got wonderful cousins. We're all very, very close. We love being together. They're down Sarnia way, but they supported as best they could from where they were. So right. I've been very, very fortunate that way. And the other thing was Colin was also supportive when I ran in 2014. He had had a stroke, and he was hospitalized for most of that year. But even though he could not come home, he was encouraging me constantly and daily. So very blessed.
Great. You have been deeply involved in social work and community advocacy, especially in Malton. What inspired you to get involved in this kind of work, and what drives you to continue today?
I think it all goes back to, and I don't want to get into it because there are so many things that shape us. Growing up, a lot of our life, certainly our basis was our faith. And I got very involved in my particular faith, and I ended up being a youth leader with what's called Presbyterian Young People's Society. And we have various levels of areas, and one is the Synod, which covers a huge area, and I was chair of the board for that. And we were trying to help everyone within our Synod and our congregations and our presbyteries within that Synod. So I got that feeling of how you could be organized, how you could do follow-up, how to look around and see what needed to get done. And that started it. And then as I continued, we founded, Friends from University, we've founded, it's over 30 years now, we've raised a few $1 million called Hope, Helping Other People Everywhere, Toronto. Mm-hmm. And our big event is an annual volleyball tournament that takes place down Toronto. And that's been going for over 30 years. Then when I moved to Malton, there were so many great people. I'm thinking of Helen and Clem Burrows, who did so much for this community. Helen had to move out of the community to be with her family now, but she was known as the mayor of Malton, very affectionately. And we connected, and she encouraged me to be part of the revamped Malton Community Festival, and COVID affected us badly there. But in the meantime, in 2015, I received an email from someone. I was on the board of the Malton Community Festival with, who said, hey, PCHS is looking for directors. You should apply. And I kept hearing about Punjabi Community Health Services. There was so much buzz in the community because it started here. Mm-hmm. And I looked on the website. I was so impressed with the work they were doing in the South Asian community, which had been so traditionally marginalized. And I applied. They took me on. And by 2019, the then president had to step aside to. She actually began working for the organization and has been involved since she was young. And as vice president, I stepped in, and we got through COVID. But it was a challenge, as it was for all of us through COVID. But hard to get real good work done when you can't meet in person and you can't go out into the community as easily to do it. But we still did. We went out and we were dropping kits off for COVID and information and connecting people.
So do you have any, can you give us some rough number? How many volunteers do you have in this?
For the festival itself, or for the PCHS itself? The board, there are 9 of us on the board. We are all volunteer. Mm-hmm. Our staff right now is at 119, 120, and that includes contract as well as full and part-time. We have an excellent executive team, and our CEO has been with the organization all the way along, Amandeep Kaur. So she just does a magnificent job, as did Baldev Mutta before her. And so the volunteers, they come out in droves. We've got many from our programs that volunteer, and they're those, I guess one of the best volunteering ones would be for our addictions and mental health. We've got folks that have been through some of our programs, and they come back and they come alongside as mentors. Great. And that is huge. And I've heard many of their personal stories, and it's amazing the dedication of these volunteers. What the staff and the volunteers do, the board is just in awe of. We're a governance board. We aren't supposed to interfere with the day-to-day operations, but we're certainly aware of them. And everybody works really hard. Gives 150% every day.
Other than this, as you just said, you are especially focusing on the mental stress and the addiction. Other than this, what kind of activities do we do under this?
Well, one thing, violence against women. There's been, Baldev was very concerned about that, and he started a program called Why Are Good Men Silent? To make sure there was a conversation around it, because some of these, and we serve the South Asian community, but also beyond that, and there are so many things like mental health and violence against women, or just spousal violence or partner violence. And it's not just a solitary culture. It's not just affecting one culture. It affects so many places. So there's so many things. We've got settlement. We've got so many things that need to, we've got health as well. Focus on diabetes. Okay. There's certainly, there's a higher level of diabetes in the South Asian community. Yeah. So we've worked really hard to get information out there, get supplies out, and to help with that.
Okay. And did this organization work during COVID times also?
Yes, we sure did. We were cutting edge. I admired Baldev so much because he called me as chair and said that he'd had a call from one of our partner not-for-profits, and they said, well, what about meeting, because we've got this COVID thing, and this was on a Monday, and he said, we shut down on Friday. There are no in-person meetings. But they did everything by social distancing. Things were dropped off in mailboxes. Mm-hmm. We had information cards that went out in several languages, and they were blanketed throughout. We were still, there was Zoom. Thank heaven for Zoom. We were still operating, and we use Teams as well. We were still operating our programs, and we also put in place for our seniors, for example. We have great seniors programs, and they're energizing to watch. And some of them didn't have access to the electronic means to be online, and PCHS made sure we got those supplies for them, that nobody was left behind.
Okay. That's great. You had an opportunity to run a political office, right? Mm-hmm. Even though you didn't win those elections, but that's a separate case. Mm-hmm. How did these experiences shape your understanding of politics and the basic need of a community?
Great questions. Having worked in one of the councillor's offices at the city of Mississauga, I had seen how it operates up close and personal. I was the executive assistant, so my job was to make sure things went smoothly for the councillor. Mm-hmm. But I had to know everything that the councillor knew so that I could assist as best possible. So when all the reports came in for council, I was reviewing those, so I knew the nuts and bolts of it. And then when it came time, I was really concerned that sometimes we don't always get the best representation politically because people aren't as informed. And I really felt strongly I could be a good representative for our community. I live here. I love Malton. And there is the South Britannia part as well. And they're a wonderful, wonderful asset in our Ward 5 as well. So I thought I could make a difference. And it was challenging. But I did have a lot of volunteers. We had great youth volunteers for Malton Festival. They were happy to come out and have volunteer hours to assist, and they had great ideas, and they honed their communication skills. I got to know people and meet people that they had an interest in politics, and then there were the people that felt that they were not included and they were not part of the community, and to be able to direct them because of my experience at the city. You can get help here, or you can go to PCHS. I could actually help people at the door, not just be there for a political reason. So that was huge for me, and there were challenges. I did not. Some people have a war chest. I didn't have a war chest, but I was very pleased with the response I got on the budget I had available, and I had really wonderful financial support from family and friends and from the community. Yeah, and one thing that you asked was about what it taught me. It was a lesson afterwards, and I thought it was about it really reinforced for me how people notice if you're genuine. I was at our local Freshco Cello and had my things to put up, and I happened to look behind me, and a young gentleman was standing there, and he had a case of water and and something else. They were heavy anyway. I said, "Please go ahead, set them down." And he said, "Thank you." "Oh, no problem." And then he said, "Most people wouldn't have done that." And I said, "I'd like to think most people would." I said, "Here in Malton, we're pretty friendly. We try to help each other." And he said, "I don't think most people would have." I said, "Well, maybe we can each make a difference." And he proceeded to check out. I checked out, and he was still packing his things. And he said, "I know you." And I said, oh. And then I really looked at him again. And he said, "I met you when you were campaigning." And you can only imagine in weeks and weeks and weeks how many doors you knock on, how many events you go to, how many people you meet. And somehow I looked at him, I said, "You were at the mosque on Airport Road when I was there with Jagmeet." He said, "Yeah, we had a conversation." "Yes, we did." He said, "I voted for you."
Okay.
And I thought, now if I had just stood there and been oblivious to him, what does that say about me? This is somebody, he had stuff that was heavy. Put it up on the belt, let's get you going. But I thought I was the same person he met there campaigning as I was just doing my everyday shopping. And I thought it's really important for all of us to remember to be present to who we're with and to be genuine.
Right. Throughout your life, you must have faced many ups and downs, right? So can you share a moment where you have overcome a significant challenge, and what did you learn from it?
I had, it was back in 2004, so it was a while ago, but I think of it not every day, but every so often. And I'd had a terrible headache for a few weeks, and finally I went into emergency over at Tobago General, and they informed me I had a brain aneurysm. Now, I wasn't sure what that was, and it's where there's a weakness in the vein, and as your blood is pumping through, it grows and grows, so it bulges on the vein. And if it isn't addressed in some way, it could explode, and it just ruptures in your brain, and it can kill you instantly. You can be severely impaired, partially impaired, a little bit impaired, or you can be fortunate, as I was, and I'm fine. I had no long-term effects. I had a problem with some words. Had trouble finding my words when I first came out of surgery. Do you still have that problem? Every so often, but usually just if I get tired, and it's not, and not all the time. But it'd be, I would search for a word. I could describe what I was talking about. If I was talking to you about the door over there and say, the thing you turn, you could put it up or down, you twist it, that thing. I could tell you that, but I couldn't say, and I could say it's on the door, but I couldn't tell you it was a doorknob. Oh. So it was that knowing, and it gave me greater empathy for people perhaps with dementia when you can't describe or you can't express. And so I went through, it was a good year that I was dealing with that, but I'd explain to people and they were very, very patient. Yes.
So how did you overcome that? Did you take, like, were you on medicine for that time? Or?
Yeah, actually for 2 months they gave me something that calms your brain. I don't know quite how, but they didn't want, I guess, anything to affect because everything was still healing. It was behind my eye and back in, so they had to. It was very serious surgery, and they could have nicked something, and they didn't. So it just came out feeling very fortunate, and that I really needed to work hard to gain back my communication skills. And so I made sure I started reading quickly again. I love to read anyhow, but I thought that would reinforce my vocabulary. And it did. And it was going to fade anyway, and it did. Yeah. But I did everything possible that I could. I like to talk.
That's great. We have been told by many people, you have been a tireless advocate for this community, especially in Malton. What are some of the changes you've seen in Malton during your time working here, and what are the issues you're still passionate about?
Well, passionate about everything about Malton. Some of the changes, the one thing I'm really, really happy about is just about a year ago we opened the Youth Hub over behind Lincoln Alexander School. And we've got several agencies there, and PCHS is one of them. So we're offering a number of different programs and counseling and different things, activities to keep our youth occupied, that they have a place to go after school, to be in community, in our community. And that's really, really exciting. There are other things. There's different projects that are in the works. I'm glad to see it. It's simple and it's commercial, but Walmart left the community, which had a terrible effect for those people that don't have easy transport. But we've got Giant Tiger and Oceans is what I've been told that are both, and the buildings are almost complete over at Westwood Mall. So we're getting some back of the resources we need to shop easily and well here in the community. And I think a really big thing for me was there a year ago when the provincial government announced that it wanted to take apart the region of Peel to have us 3 separate cities. They would download to each of us roads and healthcare and different things. And being part of PCHS, we quickly realized that our funding would be affected because much of our funding comes through the region and it's downloaded, and we started here in Malton, but we serve Brampton and we serve Caledon. We've got offices in all three places. And our concern was, how are we going to ensure, because with the Ontario health teams now, the distribution of health resources has changed. If they broke up the region, we were in trouble. There was an organization called Metamorphosis that it still stood, but it wasn't really functioning. We got together with our partners and those at Metamorphosis that had the Metamorphosis name, and we were at over 100 agencies, not for profit, and we got together. I'm on the communications team, and we've got 5 staff from PCHS on various other teams, housing, health, mental health, etc. And we got a leadership team, and Amandeep Kaur, our CEO of PCHS, is part of that. And they went to the transition team for the region, and they didn't say, you can't do this. It's not going to work. You're going to make for more stress and strain on the resources of each of these 3 communities. They said, how do we help to ensure that no one is left behind? And they actually helped us get the information we needed to prove that the region of Peel does not get equal funding to anywhere else in Ontario. We're behind at least, it's $876, I think, per year, per person in the entire region, that we're not getting what everybody else is. So we're now asking for this, and the transition team realized that it was not financially viable to break it up. There are some things they still are looking at, and Metamorphosis is continuing its work, and that is the bigger picture for the region, but it affects what happens here in Malton.
It does. And looking ahead, what are some of the goals or aspirations that you still have for your community and for your own personal journey, whether in politics or beyond?
I want Malton to thrive. I want Malton to, which it does in so many ways, show the pride we have of here. Most people, when you talk to them, I don't say I'm from Mississauga. I say I'm from Malton. And if people don't know what that, I explain it's part of Mississauga. We're that part that's surrounded by the airport and the industrial and the highways that is an island unto itself. And as a result, we identify a little bit differently. We're aware we're part of Mississauga, but we feel special because we're from Malton. And I want that pride there. I want every person in this community to have the health care they need, access to the services they need, whether it's housing, it's a crisis, whether it's mental health needs, whatever it might be, that we can get through the very many agencies that work so hard, and many of them that are operating here. And they're in Mississauga, but they're also centered in Malton as well. So I want that, and I enjoy my work with PCHS. I love doing it. It's fascinating. I've learned so much. We've got such diversity in our staff, and we're reaching out to other communities because we've moved forward so far. And we've gone from, it was $20,000 the first year that PCHS was in operation 33 years ago. We're at $12 million as a not-for-profit organization now. When you've got that funding that you can use, you can make a difference. And so I'm glad to be, the fact of it all, Karen Dave, is that the terms when I started at PCHS in 2015 were 2 3-year terms, which meant 2021, but we were in COVID. And so we couldn't, we did do a virtual annual meeting, and everyone knew they were special circumstances. But because of COVID and other people have life as well, so a couple of our folks have had to step back from the board, and we didn't have the succession plan able to move forward that we had. So we've actually had to change our bylaws that I could continue as chair, and I was delighted to agree. It wasn't like I was just waiting for the moment to exit the scene. I'm glad to continue the work, and we're nurturing the board that we've got someone to step in.
And when did you step back for the chair?
I haven't yet. I'm still.
You're about to.
I've been renewed until we have. We've got new board members, so we need to ensure that the person that steps into the chair role has the time to get a good grasp of it, and they're going to need time to shadow. And right now, because of life circumstances and different factors, we're just not sure who's going to be able to do that, because we don't want to set someone up that their circumstances are not going to accommodate them serving. Because there are things. I mean, I've had the honor of meeting. We've had several politicians come and see what we do. And because I've got flexibility in my schedule, I could be at PCHS during the day to have those meetings with the CEO and some of our staff and some of our folks that are in our programs, that we can explain directly to the politicians what we need. And so I'm glad to advocate. I don't think I'd probably run again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And now we have, this round is called Rapid Fire Round.
Sure.
I'll be asking you 5 simple questions. Little tricky, so you have to be very particular about your answers, and that should be 1 or 2 lines. Right? Okay. Quick. So if you were about to write a book about your life, what would be the title?
I love to sail. I haven't been able to do it for a while, but I would say Looking for Calming Waters.
Okay. What's one thing that Canada still surprises you about? Since after all these years you have been in this country?
Yeah. I'm still always taken by how nice people are and how beautiful it is. There are places that I've come across, I'm traveling from some place to somewhere, and I come across something that's just so incredibly breathtaking. And just something, a friend of mine actually moved from Australia, and they had seen pictures of the north in the fall, and they said, well, that's touched up.
Great.
Yeah.
If you could have a dinner with one political person, maybe who was in the past or present, who would that be and why?
There is a political side to it. I would say Queen Elizabeth I.
Okay.
Because she was living in a male-dominated time. She had had a precarious life. Her dad was going to get rid of her at one point. And she navigated and went completely against convention. Her role was seen to be get married, the husband would run the country, and she'd just produce the male heir. And she was having none of it. And she created a new frontier for women.
What's a secret talent or hobby that not many people know about?
I love to do flower arranging.
Okay. If you could instantly master any skill, what would that be? And no, politics doesn't count.
Oh, okay, now you got me thinking. I would love to be a master woodworker, that I could do cabinetry and do fancy carving and do anything to do with wood. I love making things. I love doing things with my hands. And I'd love to make my own cabinets in my kitchen.
Okay. Did you ever try it?
Not yet.
Okay. And lastly, your story is very inspirational. What could be your message for the youth?
Oh gosh. You can do anything you set your mind to. Listen and watch and ask questions. You've got every right to ask questions of adults. And if you don't get answers, find another adult that's willing to talk to you and perhaps even mentor you. Follow your heart and do what really, really appeals to you. And make sure you get your education, that you're best equipped as possible, whether it's going to something that has that's practical, like doing a mechanic, that you go for the schooling, but you also have the practical placement as well. Whatever suits you and your lifestyle and your aspirations, you can do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dianne. Thank you so much for being with us. And we really appreciate your time. And we, on behalf of CN Canada and the whole team, we wish you all the best for your future projects, your future work, your passion. We really appreciate everything. You have a very blessed life. Thank you.
And you too.